Hello guys, welcome back to another Lumley trading video. In this one, we're going to be doing a day recap, a day trading recap on all our analysis that we put in our free Discord, again in the description if you want to see it posted live instead of the later recaps. Go through the analysis we put and see how did it all play out. So firstly, again, this is all Eastern time at 8:40 a.m. we put in Discord. We're looking at the QQQs. We got targets. The main target, well, all four of these are going to be targets. The main target is obviously going to be the closest one. This one we should hit pre-market, and that's down at 480, 480.85, I believe that is. So that was our first area to pay attention to, and what we can see is it did hit that pre-market. So now we can look at these two, and because that's hit, now we can pay attention to the SPY because the SPY was lagging in this case. And so then we should know we were looking at a magnet down to that also on the SPY. So how did this start to play out? So to pull up TradingView, this is the only time we really use TradingView because we use it for the Younger View apps. Otherwise we use Think or Swim. But again, same thing. We got our target down to here. And these targets also hit a bit later in the day, but they did provide a nice bounce play to try and catch some longs on the Qs. Now, the only part of the analysis which wasn't as clean as we would have liked is what we were really watching for was obviously we hit this pre-market, and what we were hoping for was more of a dump into the open, into these anchor VWAPs, and then we could get nice large size longs. However, we didn't get that, so it was more starter size around here, and we just had to kind of catch the move as it came. So that did slightly change. Again, not everything's going to be picture perfect. Nothing's going to be exactly as you always want it in the market. So it's all about managing with what we can. And in this case, we kind of saw markets opened, as in this case here, markets open, and we were just getting a run. So we had to stop thinking about how can we get these lower anchor re-ups, which would have given us a nice, better risk to reward and just a better overall trade. And what we can start seeing is this first gap was filled at 19,849. So as soon as that was kind of filled, we didn't really get a pullback off that, as you can see. We kind of knew we would just fly and run straight to this magnet at 19,913. So this was our magnet level for the day. What a magnet level is where we expect the price to be attracted to and push towards. So that was our magnet level. And again, this was posted just as the market opened, 934. And again, that was going to be our target. So what do we then see? About 20 minutes later, we posted in the Discord again. There we go. We came into that magnet again. We called that around here. And where did it go? It came into the exact target we wanted of 19,913. And again, we can go through these on Think or Swim to kind of show you how this was all playing out. But again, if we zoom into the futures, again, we were putting this call when this gap got filled, which was around here. And again, it flew straight into that target, and as you can see, that was also the high of the day, because that's how these magnet works. We don't use them as levels to short. So what we do is we expect the price to magnet towards this level. So in this case, we expect price to increase to that level. In this case, it did catch the intraday high before doing a massive dump. But again, we didn't really have as much reason to short apart for that we had a gap at this low. So we did have some size going into the short just to try and fill this gap. But again, there wasn't massive reasons to short apart for a gap fill. So we had that entry to then short to the downside to fill that gap. Once we had filled that gap, there wasn't too much we were looking for at that time. And what you can also see on the Qs, I don't know if actually this was posted in the free Discord. Don't think it was, but what you can see on the QQQs is this kind of orange zone here. What you expect with this zone is for all of it to be filled, but again, that kind of worked a bit like our magnet here. It was essentially the same range if you prefer to trade the QQQs and the options. This range you expect to get filled within market hours, and what you can see is obviously we opened below it, and so really we had a long call all the way. And again, where we called the Nasdaq magnet was once we started to enter this range, because once we started to enter it, a lot of times you'll just go and fill it right away. So we don't have time so much to kind of wait for a pullback to get in and then go for that long. So overall, we were long biased from this area here to this area here. And again, then we can flip slightly short bias. That is a strong call long, like a near enough an A star setup. The short from here at the top of this range down to the gap fill, again, that's from the Qs, from the Nasdaq futures. Still a good setup, but more like a B-rated setup. So we're normally taking less risk on a trade like that just because we're not as likely for it to work out. But overall, that was going to be the main game plan for the day. After that, we'd already made a good enough amount to kind of be done for the day. So after that, it was more, is there any kind of setups where we can risk a small amount of the profit and kind of look for some trades? There were some opportunities, and that is, for example, you came down into this 479 level. This is a nice long bounce area for us. So we traded that. But all of these kind of fibs did work out quite nicely. As you kind of see in here, you get your nice bounce back to retest that range. And again, what you get with this range is you expect this range to fill, but it also means it's a key zone. So if you come back, you retest it as a resistance here. Shorts to the downside aren't unlikely. This is normally going to be used as our key bounce level. Whenever you watch our analysis videos, or if you're posting in the Discord, if you see a 4236 level, this is normally where we're going to be aiming for reversals, or as a minimum some bounce plays. So you can see in that case here, a bit of offside move, and then a nice run up back into our area that we would normally look to target. And again, we tested it one more time. We don't normally test that second hit, so personally I did not trade that second hit, but it did provide one more opportunity to the upside. So that was all the kind of plays we played across the Nasdaq and the Qs, which all did play out quite nice. And then we ended up taking a small trade over on the Dow futures just to run a bit of the profit. And we had two kind of key trade setups for this, which is we had a gap created over at, well, I believe this was at 40,905 to 906, because again, it was a 1 point gap. Just change that to a 1 day, 1 minute, because otherwise it's going to load all the data. But what you can see here is, again, this was a 1 point gap created right there. And what happened to the penny, we came in and filled this. So again, normally the way we use gaps is a bit how we use our magnet levels, because a gap is a magnet level. You expect price to push towards it. You just need your reason for entry. And the reason for entry can be that VWAP. We know Dow respects the VWAP quite well, so you can get in here, risk quite tight. And again, the way I would normally look for risk on these sorts of trade is you look how far the gap move is from entry, about 70 ticks, and that means you want to risk around no more than 35. So you can risk kind of up to 41,010. That would be your risk. That would be your risk. That would be your take profit. And as you can see, it came down straight to fill that gap. Now, in a case like this, we have no more reasons for shorts. As we went through on the Qs, all the magnets were hit, all the anchored VWAPs we were talking about were hit, and this is what we normally look for as kind of reasons to push down. We do have one all the way down here, but it's very far off. You're going to need some sort of catalyst to move us down to there, so that's probably what we'll look for more on a Wednesday. If Wednesday comes out negative, which is again going to be the FOMC, then that should be our push to the downside. So that is normally what we'll be looking for that. But again, because all of these were hit, there's no catalyst to send us all the way down to there. Overall, we now can be long bias on the day, because there were still kind of targets to hit to the upside, but all our downside targets were now hit. So long bias, and again, that's why we really wanted to play this long call as well, because normally we don't play gaps long. But again, is there a reason for it to continue to sink? Not really. So more reasons for us to push to the upside. So that's exactly what we did. Near enough to the penny. Does a push up, creates a new gap down here. We didn't trade that gap fill. And then what you can see is we start pushing into VWAP. That can be exits on the longs we got back there. That's where I took most of that profit anyway. You come into that VWAP. And then what you can see is here we start to break the VWAP with quite a bit of strength. And we've created two new gaps. And so what do? We push up, we push up, we push up. We start coming into the VWAP extensions. And so here we can look for shorts, coming back into towards a VWAP and to fill those gaps. So that is the overall trade plan for the day. Again, a few smaller moves we can trade over on the Dow, but overall the main moves were between the QQQs if we're trading the options, which we did because we can hold them for longer, as well as NQs where we can trade the moves on the futures. But normally we're looking for kind of smaller moves, quicker moves over on the futures, just because when we use the futures, we're using Apex. Again, refer a link in the description if you want to do it, which is a funding provider for futures traders. But you are limited to some sort of risk management rules. So it is, you can't have as much drawdown and stuff, obviously, as if it was a personal account. So the options we can let run for kind of these whole moves, With futures, we kind of have to take profits as we go to kind of make sure we're locking in those profits and we don't go into drawdown. But overall, that was the day trading recap. Make sure you're in the Discord if you want to be seeing these biases placed before market opens. And I hope to see you next one. And that's it. Peace.